Hey, what is up, mortals? It is AC here, and before we get into today's video, there is something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. This story starts off very similar to the normal series. Izuku is born a quirkless kid who aspired to becoming a hero. Things only begin to change when the sludge villain starts running down the city street. For those of you who can't remember, the sludge villains appeared in the beginning couple of episodes of the first season of My Hero. In the normal universe, All Might was coming out of a shop and saw the villain charging down the street, prompting him to chase after him, leading him under the bridge where he met Izuku. But in this world, he spent longer in the store trying to find something he needed, thus changing the story drastically. Izuku walks under the bridge to get home. He's still in a depressed state from Bakugo blowing up his hero notes and tossing them out the window. As he sobs, it takes him a second to notice the sludge villain forming behind him from a sewer drain. When he does, he turns around and gets frozen in shock. The sludge villain towers over him easily. As Izuku begins to scream for his life, the sludge villain starts to envelop him and enter his body through his pores. Izuku tries to claw his way out of the villain's grasp, but finds he can't with the sludge villain laughing out. It would be easier for the both of us if you stopped squirming. A few minutes later, All Might appears on one side of the bridge, spouting his normal catchphrase, "No need to fear, because I am here!" But as he looks under the bridge, all he sees is Izuku ominously standing at the other end with his back turned to him. "Excuse me, my young friend, you wouldn't have seen a villain pass through here, would you?" All Might asks in his normal cheery tone, oblivious to who he is actually talking to. With his voice rather distorted, Izuku chuckles. "Nope, haven't seen one, sir." He then walks away, still with his back turned to All Might. As he's walking away, Izuku tries to scream for help, but it's too late. The sludge villain had already taken over his body. With the sludge villain in Izuku's body, the real Izuku would be semi-conscious while everything would be going on, everything feeling like a hazy dream for him. But there would be times where his mind just gives out and he fully loses consciousness. Sludge Deku, as we will call him, would do many unspeakable things normal Izuku wouldn't do. But there is one we need to talk about. Some time after Izuku had his body taken, Sludge Deku would be wandering aimlessly down a dark, dinging alleyway at night. As he's stumbling down it, a strange voice calls out to him. "Ah, Izuku Midoriya, or otherwise known as a sludge villain who has cowardly taken his body." Behind Sludge Deku were two men, both in suits, with one generating dark mist around them and obstructing their faces. Sludge Deku turns around and yells out, "Yeah, and what? You some sort of hero here to rescue the kid?" One of the men just laughs as he steps closer to Sludge Deku. As he steps closer, Sludge Deku begins to sprout sludge whips from his shoulders and biceps in an act to scare him away, but he doesn't seem to be fazed by it. "Please, I'm no hero. I'm simply here to test a theory I have, or rather to play a game with my nemesis," the man explains as he reaches for Sludge Deku, prompting him to attack him with his tendrils. As the whips slap off the man doing nothing to him, he just laughs as he calls out Sludge Deku for not living up to the potential of his quirk, then says Izuku Midoriya would do a much better job. With more of the black mist crowding the alleyway, Sludge Deku starts walking backwards while still attacking the man, but nothing he does phases him. After a bit, Sludge Deku starts running out of the alley, but he couldn't make it out as the wall of that black mist blocks his path while the other man steps out. As he turns around, the other man places his hand on Sludge Deku's face, knocking him out somehow. With him falling to the floor, the other man starts talking to the other one. "Kurogiri alerts the police anonymously that Mr. Midoriya has been found. Make sure to keep him on high surveillance. I want to see how this plays out." Then both men are engulfed by the mist and disappear. A day or two later, the real Izuku wakes up in a hospital bed screaming for his life. It was just like he had a nightmare. After a few seconds of him screaming, a couple of doctors come rushing in to calm him down while explaining he needs to keep his voice down and explaining his situation. He was found lying down in an alleyway out cold, his body severely malnourished and worn out. Then Izuku's mother, Inko, and All Might come busting into the room, startling Izuku while causing powerful sludge tendrils to shoot out of his arms and stick to the roof. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive is a channel based on a variety of anime lore. If you're interested in content like this, make sure you click the icon in the top right corner or check the description below for a link to the channel. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. As soon as All Might saw the tendrils, he leaped into action to get rid of them, but Izuku yells at him to stay back. He thinks he got this. With All Might casually stepping back, Izuku retracts them back into his body slowly and a bit painfully. All Might watches in shock as the doctor explains what Izuku just did. All signs of the sludge villain had vanished, even though he had ripped out most of Izuku's vital organs and replaced them with the sludge. It was as if he had been forcefully removed from Izuku, yet his quirks still remained inside of Izuku along with a slight remnant of his DNA. With that out of the way, All Might asks if he could have a talk with Izuku alone. When everyone walks out, All Might slowly reverts into his Small Might form, shocking Izuku, but he doesn't have enough energy to panic while barely keeping his new quirk under control. All Might then goes on to explain his injury to Izuku, being surprised about his fanboy knowledge about him, but explaining it was from a fight no one had heard about. He then explains he'd been searching for Izuku himself for the last 4 months. He had deep regrets for not knowing that Izuku had been taken over, but Izuku didn't say anything. He was in shock that his body had been taken over for that long. As he started mouthing the sentence 4 months over and over, All Might tried calming him down, but it was just too much for Izuku to take in. For him, it only felt like a week, possibly a week and a couple of days, not a full 4 months. All Might then takes Izuku's hand and announces, "Look, Midoriya, I was in contact with your mother for all of the 4 months when I was looking for you. She told me everything about you, especially your drive to become a hero. And with your new quirk, I think I owe it to you to help you recover and train your new power. I was told you wanted to get into UA, right?" As stated before, All Might felt a lot of guilt and regret for not saving Izuku when he could. If he was just a bit faster, he could have gotten there in time, and none of this would have happened. Izuku burst into tears while nodding to All Might. His head was a mess, and he didn't know how to react. Everything was going so fast. So with that out of the way, Izuku's recovery and training would start. And with the UA entrance exam in only 6.5 months, he was going to need to take these months very seriously. Sludge Deku didn't take good care of Izuku's body. It was extremely malnourished while also having strange and unexplainable scars on random places. But thanks to medical breakthroughs, the recovery period wouldn't take long, only a little under a month. During this time, Izuku would catch up on school notes he missed while still in the hospital, which were a lot of notes. Also, a few students would come in to see how he was doing, but not a lot. All Might, in his Small Might form, would sort of act like Izuku's carer for this time, helping him recover while also setting up a diet and training regimen. When Izuku was allowed to go home, that's when the true training would start. Just like in canon, All Might would bring him to the beach and tell him to clean it, but this time All Might got a grant from the city council that allowed Izuku to use his known sludge quirk to help him clean, also allowing All Might to train him. Izuku would go on to learn the basic fundamentals about his quirk. He is able to secrete a sludge-like substance from his pores. This sludge could be used in many ways. He could create controllable whiff-like appendages from any pores. The sludge itself was extremely sticky, so it could be used for numerous purposes. After a bit more training, Izuku would learn even more about his quirk, like he could use it to leave his body and move freely without it, but doing so hurt his body and risked his body from shutting down completely, rendering it useless. Then he also learned he could change the density of the sludge, meaning he could make it as hard as rock or hard enough to shape. Though he could theoretically do a lot of unique and powerful things with a sludge quirk, he was very limited by how much sludge is in his body, which he doesn't seem to have much of at his current state. While his body seemed to have the ability to generate the sludge by itself, it was an incredibly slow process, meaning if he lost the majority of sludge in a battle, he'd lose access to his quirk until his body created more. On a quick side note, one rainy day, while All Might was walking Izuku home, Izuku would be using a sludge to create an umbrella for the two, while he showed All Might how much his sludge shaping had improved. They'd be stopped by a person further on the street. Staring at the both of them was an extremely confused Bakugo, standing with its own umbrella with little skulls on it. To him, he was certain Izuku was dead after what he had seen under the bridge, a brutal aftermath no teenager should ever have to see, and seeing him using the sludge Deku's quirk set him off. He starts yelling at Izuku, completely ignoring All Might while thinking he was some random person since using his deflated form. Bakugo's screams seemed to just be gibberish as he rushed at Izuku with explosions in his hands. As he gets close, All Might gets in between them and says, "Whoa there, you must be the Bakugo kid I've heard so much about." All Might starts to calm Bakugo down, while Izuku starts having a panic attack in the background. Listen to me. I can assure you this is the real Izuku Midoriya, and now is a terrible time for this. With All Might and Bakugo bickering back and forth, Izuku starts hearing a strange faint laughter in his head. It sounded just like Sludge Deku. All Might somehow gets Bakugo to go away, letting Izuku get past the episode he was going through. With little under a month left until a UA entrance exam, he decided to pass on his power to Izuku, seeing potential in him and thinking his sludge quirk would need a bit of a power boost if he wanted to compete against everyone else. So, as Izuku crushes the last bit of trash on the beach and puts the final black bag on the pickup truck, All Might pulls him aside and explains the secret of One for All to him. At first, Izuku didn't believe All Might, saying that it's impossible to pass on quirks, but All Might says that that's literally what happened to him. He fused with the sludge villain. After hearing that, Izuku doesn't hesitate to accept All Might's offer. So with All Might transforming to hero form, he spouts the iconic line, "Eat this," as he plucks out a strand of hair and tells Izuku to eat it. This plays out just like in normal canon. We then skip a bit forward to the day of the entrance exam. As Izuku walks into the campus, he's met by Bakugo butting past him while saying, "You shouldn't have come here." But Bakugo just mutters that as he walks past Izuku. But he does yell back at him when he gets to the doors of the main building before entering. As Izuku keeps walking, he falls just like in the anime, but this time he uses his sludge quirk to stop himself from hitting the ground. As he does, a hand reaches out to grab him. As Izuku gets to his feet, he and the person trying to help him, Uraraka, have a bit of an awkward moment before both move on. The written part of the exam would go exactly the same, the only difference being the start of the physical exam. With One for All boosting his quirk and with the training he had done, he felt rather confident about this, though he still wasn't perfectly mentally sound yet, as seen by him still having panic attacks over certain stimuli that reminded him of the day he lost his body. So Izuku would use his sludge quirk to generate large tendril-like appendages on his back he used to swing from building to building. He would then generate large solid sludge claws around his arms, using them to swing by the villain bots and tear them apart. Thanks to One for All boosting his quirk, his body was able to generate his sludge a lot faster than normal, giving him a lot more to work with, though it still takes his body about a day and a half to regenerate any lost sludge. Also, since Izuku's body is still in a rather bad condition, he can't contain much of One for All, about 2 to 3%, even when we get to the internship arc and he unlocks full Cal, he'd still be in that power range. Izuku would destroy a couple of robots this way until a larger villain bot hits a swinging Izuku into a wall. As the robot towers over Izuku, he begins having a panic attack as it reminded him of when Sludge Deku did the very same thing. With his cowering back against the wall he had just been slammed against, Ida kicks through the robot. He gives Izuku a disgusted look before moving on to destroy more villain bots, leaving Izuku to have a panic attack. While Izuku was panicking, the massive zero-pointer robot starts rampaging throughout the mock city, most students running as far away as possible from it. As it gets close to Izuku, he starts running as well until he hears the cries from a young girl who is trapped under the rubble behind him and in the way of the zero-pointer. Something overcomes Izuku, like his desire to save people overcame his fear and panic with a strange power floating through his legs. Keep in mind, up until this point, Izuku has been using One for All to increase the power of his quirk, not the strength boosting part, though he had wanted to, so this was new to him. But Izuku boosts into the air while creating a massive spiked sludge fist, using most of the sludge in his body to do so. With One for All flowing through his arm and sludge fist, Izuku tears a hole through the head of the zero-pointer with a single swipe, blasting his sludge all around the arena. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editor for this video. Their details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those areas. We're always looking for members to join us. That's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out mortals, have an amazing day.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause